Today on the Hardy Mind channel, 9 surprising facts about quiet people and why everyone is wrong about them. There are so many misconceptions about quiet people, or rather introverts. You might think that they're shy or rude, but that's not always the case. In fact, there are a lot of interesting things about introverts that you probably don't know. For example, did you know that they're often more creative and intelligent than people who are extroverted? Or that they process information differently than other people? If you're curious to learn more about introverts, then you'll want to watch this video. We're going to debunk some of the myths about them and show you why they're actually pretty amazing people. Welcome to the Hardy Mind channel. If you are new here, please subscribe to our channel for more psychology videos. Okay, let's start. 1. Introverts react quickly to new information, but are slower to adapt. When it comes to processing new information, introverts tend to be quick thinkers. They take in data rapidly and are able to quickly analyze and form conclusions. This ability to rapidly process information can be an asset in many situations. For instance, introverts are often excellent problem solvers because they are able to quickly identify patterns and see connections that others might miss. However, the same tendency also means that introverts are slower to adapt to new situations. Once they have formed a mental model of how things work, they are reluctant to change it. This inflexibility can sometimes lead to missed opportunities or blind spots. It also means that introverts are often more systematic and detail-oriented than their extroverted counterparts. The strengths and weaknesses of introverts arise from the same source: the way they process information. 2. Introverts dread small talk. For many introverts, the prospect of having to make small talk is enough to send them running for the hills. On the surface, small talk may seem like a harmless way to pass the time, but for introverts, it can be a daunting and exhausting experience. To an introvert, small talk feels like pointless chatter that interrupted their valuable alone time. They would much rather spend their time talking about meaningful topics or enjoying silence than engaging in idle chatter. Furthermore, small talk often requires people to put on a false persona and act like someone they're not. For introverts who value authenticity, this can be an excruciating experience. As a result, it's not surprising that many introverts dread small talk. Before we move on to the next point, please hit that like button and subscribe to our channel. Thank you. Let's continue. 3. Introverts need alone time. Being an introvert doesn't mean that you're shy or antisocial. It simply means that you need time alone to recharge after being around people. And there's nothing wrong with that. In fact, many of history's greatest thinkers were introverts who did their best work when they were alone. Albert Einstein, for example, is said to have spent hours by himself thinking about the nature of the universe. J.K. Rowling, the author of the Harry Potter series, wrote the first book in the franchise while she was living in a one-room apartment with her infant daughter. Bill Gates, the co-founder of Microsoft, is known for his Think Weeks, during which he would retreat to a secluded cabin to read and think about the future of technology. Clearly, alone time is essential for introverts to do their best work. So if you're an introvert, don't be afraid to take some time for yourself. Embrace your introversion and use it to your advantage. 4. Introverts are more careful and calculated about what risks they choose to take. While some people thrive on taking risks, others are more cautious by nature. More often than not, those who fall into the latter category are introverts. That's not to say that introverts never take risks, but they are typically more thoughtful and deliberate about the risks they do take. For them, it's not about seeking a thrill or living on the edge. It's about weighing the potential rewards against the possible consequences. And if the potential downside outweighs the potential upside, they'll usually err on the side of caution. Of course, this approach doesn't always lead to the most exciting life, but it does tend to result in a life that is more stable and predictable. something that many introverts find comfort in. 5. Introverts are deep thinkers. Introverts tend to spend more time considering their choices and analyzing information before acting, which means that they often make more well-informed decisions. In addition, introverts are excellent at formulating creative solutions to problems. Rather than fixating on the obvious answer, introverts are more likely to come up with an innovative solution that nobody else has thought of. This ability to think outside the box is one of the many reasons why introverts make such valuable employees. Despite the common misconception, being an introvert is not a disadvantage. In fact, many of the world's most successful people are introverts who have used their deep thinking skills to achieve success in their chosen field. I hope you are liking this video and finding a lot of interesting points. We have 5 more to go, so keep watching, as those might be the most important from the whole list. 6. Introverts are more creative. When it comes to creativity, introverts often get the short end of the stick. Society tends to view extroverts as the more creative type, and introverts are often left feeling like they can't measure up. However, numerous studies have shown that introverts are actually more creative than their extroverted counterparts. One reason for this is that introverts are more likely to spend time in reflection and contemplation. This allows them to explore their ideas in greater depth and come up with original solutions. In addition, introverts tend to be more open-minded than extroverts, which makes them more receptive to new ideas. Consequently, the next time you're looking for a creative solution, don't discount the power of an introvert's mind. 7. Introverts like the rain. For introverts, there is nothing quite like the sound of raindrops hitting the window. In a world that is constantly noisy and full of stimulation, the sound of rain is a welcome respite. It's like a reset button for the mind, a chance to recharge in peace and quiet. For introverts, the rain is a time to relax and reflect, to enjoy solitude and stillness. It's a time to connect with nature, to appreciate the simple things in life. And it's a time to renew their energy so that they can face the world again. So next time you see an introvert watching the rain, don't assume they're weird. They're just enjoying one of their favorite things in the world. 8. Pretending makes introverts less successful. As an introvert, there are many situations where you may feel pressured to act like an extrovert. Whether it's a job interview, a first date, or a networking event, there is often an expectation that you will be outgoing and assertive. However, new research suggests that pretending to be an extrovert can actually have negative consequences for introverts. In a recent study, introverts who tried to act like extroverts were less likely to be successful in social interactions and were more likely to report feeling exhausted afterward. The study found that this was due to the fact that introverts were expending energy on trying to maintain their false persona, leaving them with less energy for actual interaction. So next time you're feeling pressure to put on a mask of extroversion, remember that it could be detrimental to your performance. After all, it's important to be yourself in order to be successful. 9. Happiness is not a top priority for introverts. For many introverts, happiness is not a top priority. Instead, they focus on other things that are important to them, such as their work, their hobbies, or spending time with their close friends and family. This is not to say that introverts don't experience happiness, but rather that it is not their main goal in life. For introverts, the pursuit of happiness often takes a backseat to other priorities. This is not necessarily a bad thing. In fact, introverts often find that their reserved nature helps them to be more content with what they have, rather than constantly striving for more. As a result, they may lead happier and more fulfilling lives than those who are always chasing after the next big thing. And this is it for today. We hope you liked it. Don't forget to like and subscribe to Hardy Mind channel. And for more related topics, make sure to watch the recommended videos next.